Hey, we're AJXK, a sister duo from Georgia. Stepping forward in purpose within our calling and changing the narrative in things is something that we always set out and try to strive to do. If we're not stepping forth with intent and purpose, then what are we really living for? So we have been doing music together since we were very young kids. In fact, we actually gigged quite a bit in our teens at fairs and festivals. We were going to get to the point where after she graduated high school, we were going to dive into it and we were really going to pursue this as a career. Unfortunately, once we had kind of started establishing a little bit of an audience locally, we had walked through some different things within life and faith, and we had to step back from music for a while. And it wasn't until 2020 that we actually stepped back into doing music together. It was very much of like, God, what are you doing, when our music did fall apart, because we were at the point where we felt like we were really getting the opportunity to be used by God. As soon as we stepped out within music, that was when God began really opening doors within our lives, because it really was kind of something that we didn't really want to step into at first. There were a lot of things we had to overcome. So when that fell apart, it was like, well, God, what are you doing? And for years, it was like one of the hardest things. And like, I remember thinking and just lying awake some nights being like, God, like, what are you doing? Is this ever going to be back in my life again? Is this ever going to be something that is back in our lives again? Or what is your plan for this? We ended up being kind of gradually eased and led into it, and then having to kind of just take the plunge and risk it all.
Yeah, literally risk it
all.
Because
we came up with so many obstacles, like so many things we faced getting back into it. Which is definitely something that God does a lot. He presents something to you, and you're like, okay, this is good, this is falling into place. But then once you get into it, it's like you're facing all this warfare, and like you got all these things coming at you,
and it's bigger than you
like,
anticipated.
Okay, what is this? You know, like,
yeah.
How am I gonna do this? But then that's when like true reliance comes in, and you're really kind of humbled, because you're not doing it on your own account, and you're knowing that you know that what you're doing is not based upon what you can do, but rather on what God can do. And that's really where true artistry comes into play, and originality. We didn't really see it as we were going to start pursuing it again, but God had other plans and quickly shifted our hearts into being able to step into the idea that we would be, in fact, pursuing it again. And in the fall of 2020, we began sharing our music again, of covers and different things on social media. And from there, we haven't quit. Because of that act of faith that we took, we were able to step into some other things creatively and work together on some projects and certain jobs that we otherwise wouldn't have had. Faith like really has played a key role in how we seek out what we do and what God calls us into. It was not always something that was an easy step into, and has been a really long battle to kind of get to the point of being where we can step forward within the things that we do, with that mindset of changing the narrative, because that is so difficult to do.
Yes,
when you're striving to do that, it's like you're getting close, but you're not close enough. Faith is messy, it's difficult, and it's not something that you just jump right into and there it is, you have faith, God works it out, God opens the door. It's a drawn out journey. Faith is definitely something that 9 times out of 10 we are not going to understand, because it's not about seeing a return. That's not what faith is. It's about holding out when all seems hopeless, and trusting in a greater and eternal purpose, and trusting that God will see you through no matter what. I think sometimes why the road to really diving deeper into what faith is not often chosen is because essentially you're standing up for something that most of the time nobody else is standing up for, and that can be where a lot of doors kind of close in your face. It's not an easy journey, and it's definitely something where sometimes it takes years of really holding out and listening to God and really recognizing that we're not here for ourselves, but we're here for a greater and eternal purpose. And that is something that, with our music falling apart the way it did, it was something that we did not understand and we couldn't grasp at first, and we didn't see like how any good could come of it. But when God led us back into it and where we are now within things and our viewpoint on it now, looking back, we can see God's hand of favor in that, and where what happened, it seemed so like tragic at the time,
so
but
awful.
it was really like the best thing that could have happened. And it has made us be able to do things and stand firm in things that we wouldn't be able to if we hadn't experienced that.
Often we walk through different things that we don't understand. Sometimes it doesn't feel like God is there. Sometimes it doesn't feel like you can see him or feel him. And that is a very scary thing. I think as believers, we all have walked through that in some kind of way. It's not something that you can avoid. And with that, I believe that our story has very much of an impact that can be brought to other people to help them to know that Jesus wants us as we are. And that is something that we are so passionate about portraying within what we do, that God wants you as you are. Faith is hard, life is difficult, but God is so good. And sometimes it doesn't feel like that. Maybe sometimes it doesn't feel like God's being fair to us, or it doesn't feel like that he's there, or we can feel him within our lives and know that his presence is there. But his presence is always there, whether we feel it or not. It's not contingent on our feelings. That doesn't determine the grace that he provides for us. Wherever you are in your journey, and just knowing that there are things that are not going to make sense for a while, and it's going to seem like it's like breaking you, but essentially in a roundabout way, it's actually not breaking you, but shaping you and building you up for something greater.